Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about perimeter. We're going to find out what perimeter is and how to find the perimeter of an object. First of all, the perimeter is when we measure around the outside edges of any flat object. So if we would measure down the side, down the next side, down the next side, and finally back to where we started, and we add all of those lengths together, and we get the perimeter. How do we find perimeter? Well, we need to measure, as we said, and we're going to use a standard unit of measure. So in America, we use inches. A ruler typically has inches on one side and centimeters down the other side. The same is true of this tape measure. As you can see, it's got inches on one side, centimeters on the other side. If I put these next to each other, they are the same. If I put the centimeters next to one another, you can see that one better. The numbers line up with one another. They are the same distance apart. That's called a standard unit of measure. Again, in America, we typically use inches. So today we're going to measure in inches. And what we're going to do is let's measure the perimeter of this Jiffy box. So to do that, our first step, let's use the tape measure. We said we're going to use inches, so which side, we need to decide which side we're measuring with. The top side is the inches, so that's the side I'll look at, because I've chosen to measure this box's perimeter in inches. So my first step is to measure one length. This represents 0. Always line your 0 up with one side and measure to the other side. As you can see, it ends on 3. So we know the length from here to here is 3. So the next step would be to record that. In order to record it, we want to make a representation of what we're measuring. So now this box is represented by this rectangle. And we measured the bottom half down here, so we're going to say that's 3 inches. Put 2 marks there, that's one way to designate inches. So I know this is a rectangle. The box is the same on the bottom length as it is on the top, so I don't need to remeasure the top. But just to make sure, let's do it. Let's measure the top and make sure it really is 3. So I line it up, and indeed it's 3 inches. So I've got that right. So now we've measured the bottom and the top sides. Let's measure the other two. So again, I put this on the end, 0 to this edge, that's 5.5 inches. And again, it's a rectangle, so it's the same down here. So I go to my representation, and I've got 5.5 here and 5.5 here. Is it necessary to write it on every single one? Not always, but for today, we'll write them this way. So the next step is to remember, perimeter is when we start at one point, measure down the side, each side all the way back to where we started. So we need to add up all 4 of these lengths. So we've got 3 inches plus 3 inches plus 5.5 plus 5.5. We can chunk that any way we want to. If I want to, I can say that together is 6, these together are 10, and these together are 1. So if I wanted to, I could rewrite this as 6 plus 10 plus 1. And that gives me a total of 17 inches. Or I could have said this half plus this half is 1 and carried my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 3 more is 7, plus 5 is 12, plus 5 more is 17. And again, I've got 17 inches. So the perimeter of this rectangle, which represents this box, is 17 inches. So tomorrow we'll be measuring several different objects in the classroom. You need to come to class prepared with some sort of a question to help us with our learning.